your life growing up.
Mm.
So you said your dad wasn't around. He was an abusive father, right?
Yeah.
So do you want to tell it? Can you tell
Yeah,
us
I
a little
mean,
bit?
it's funny because I was saying to you earlier, I do a
Yeah.
lot of these podcasts and it often comes up. And whenever I mention my dad and say he was abusive, people then sort of go, okay, and they move on.
Panic.
I think they are, yeah, maybe panicked or maybe sort of unsure on how to proceed or whether they can probe. But I don't wear it as, it's not, no, it's hard to explain it, but like it's not trauma for me anymore.
No.
It's not, I don't want him to have that power anymore. So he died years ago now, 2017, I want to say, he had MS. My memory of him is that he was very angry about that. And I also think, and I don't say these words and with flippantly, like a lot of people on social media, like everyone's a narcissist now and everyone's a this and everyone's a that. And again, my degree's in psychology, so I have a bit more understanding than say most, but I really do think he had a lot of tendencies of even things like psychopathy. Like he had little remorse and so little, he was glib and like...
What's that mean?
So glib's like when you are superficially charming.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like
so to everyone else, was he...
There's nothing behind it, but you can walk in and sort of impress a room. And my dad had that in spades, but he manipulated everybody. Like he was... I didn't know that he actually had hit me. Like there's a lot of my childhood I don't remember.
Right.
Like there are chunks of it that are just no longer in there. My mum told me the other day recently that he had actually hit me, and I was like, did he? I had no idea.
Wow, you totally...
And it's just not in there anymore.
Or it could be in there somewhere. You just don't.
Yeah,
realise
my
it,
therapist is often like, should we unpack it? I'm like, well, if it's not doing me any harm, and she's in agreement. And this isn't the answer for everybody, so I don't want people to listen to this and take it as gospel. But for me, my therapist is like, if it's locked away, it might be locked away for a reason. And if you start unpacking it, it might do more harm than good. Like your brain is really good at protecting itself. So if it's in there and you are functioning and you're not unhappy, etc., then why go down that rabbit hole just to find out that it was fucking horrible?
Yeah, why unlock it and potentially make yourself really unhappy for a while?
But I know he was physically arrested. More than anything, he was... So the thing that I want to do for my children is be dependable, which sounds a bit boring, but actually it's the most fundamental, basic thing that children need. One of the worst ways they can attach to a parent, which is what I had with my dad, is like an anxious attachment where you have insecurities, you don't know what you're going to get. Some days I would see him, and I have memories of things where we used to get this magazine where you'd get a little cutout thing, and each week you'd be able to assemble a figure.
Oh yeah,
do you remember that sort of thing?
I do.
And I remember him making time for me for a couple of episodes of that, and I was like, oh my god, I got time with my dad, how amazing. But I also remember getting my ass kicked a few times because I asked him for the time to do it with me.
Right.
And so because I didn't know what I was going to get, it's unsafe. So as a child, you just avoid. So even now as an adult, and I'm 6'3", I'm a big dude, I'm like a big scary man. Even now, my safety is solitude.
Right.
I would rather be left alone, particularly when I'm under stress or I'm anxious or I'm feeling a bit depressed or whatever. My safe place is solitude because no one can get me there. So that's why I sit and I draw. I would never be as good as I am at illustrating had I not spent all that time avoiding my father.
Was he physical with your mum as well?
Oh, yeah.
Very. Did you see it happen?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, a number of times. And I think for my mum, she, bless her, she thought she was doing the right thing, I think, keeping it under wraps to protect us.
Yeah.
And actually, it all kicked off one day because my brother and I, we must have been 5 or 6, walked in because we heard noises on him just hammering her. And I think for her, she knew that the veil had been lifted, so she had to act. So the police were called and he was taken away.
Right.
And at that point, she was like, well, the genie's out in the bottle now. So I think she felt like all that time, and it breaks my heart to think because she had got her ass kicked for so long.
And they just try and protect you,
just to keep us safe from it,
yeah.
I think. And I don't think she realised that actually by doing that, one, she was putting herself in danger, obviously, but also kids aren't stupid. They understand the environment. I knew my dad was a scary man.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't, my mum didn't protect us from that, you know. So
And you pick up on feelings. You could instantly know. I remember as a little girl, somebody came into my mum and dad's shop, and I instantly knew I didn't like that person.
right,
There was no reason.
yeah,
There was no reason for me not to. They were lovely,
yeah.
but I didn't like them.
I think now part of the reason I think I'm so empathetic, and so it's because actually I'm hyper aware of people. Like I pick up on things that perhaps others wouldn't, like in terms of body language, and like I adore you. We've met only a number of times, but I get such I don't know. I'm quite good at reading people.
Well, I'm an empath as well, right. So we've obviously got drawn to each other because we're like, tell us all about it.
So yeah, but there are people who I meet and I'm like, don't know, and very rarely am I wrong from that first impression, and I don't know if it's just because I'm so now. And this is such a horrible thing to think about. What Sarah calls Little Jim is that he must have been on the lookout for danger all the time.
Yeah, he was
to try to stay out of harm's way, but also he was still my dad, so. When the police took him away, and then my mum was like, I've got no choice now but to sort of follow the protocol. So he was arrested and taken away. And then there's a whole court thing. He wasn't allowed near the house, but he just kept turning up.
Did
so,
he?
Yeah. I mean, if we were out of the house, he'd come and he'd sort of like trash all the furniture. He'd set all fires. So he'd do all sorts of things.
He didn't stop even when he got arrested.
One time he turned up at the house and I opened the windows. Mum was like, I'm calling the police. So I opened the window because he was my dad.
Yeah.
I said, Dad, Mum's calling the police. He just took me out the window and just drove off. We ended up in a police. I call it a police chase.
He kidnapped you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a strong word for it, but yeah, he took me out the window.
It is, but he did.
And then the police were called, and there was we ended up, sirens are going, and he also drove like a maniac. And I remember on many occasions him being drunk and threatening.
That's a form of abuse. I did a podcast with a therapist, and she was saying that a real big form of abuse is people driving erratically to scare the passenger.
Oh, he used to threaten to drive us into walls. Yeah, he would. I remember on a number of occasions him saying things. I can't remember him shouting at my mum and saying, "I'm going to crash us into a wall. We'll kill us all." Like
wow.
Truly. I mean, he missed my sister's birth because he was in prison for armed robbery. Like he was not. So
he wasn't just a dick in the family scenario.
And he was ripping people off, and there were people after him because he had stolen or.
How on earth have you turned out such a well-rounded man, Jim?
I think because my family protected me as much as they could.
Because your mum was gorgeous.
My mum did everything she could, and I think one of the things that I feel so sorry for little me and my siblings as kids is that we didn't get enough time with my mum.
Yeah.
Because my dad was an arsehole, whatever. But my mum then had to work twice as hard because she was working to pay for what she could pay. And then we were on benefits, and there's 4 of us. And I've got a twin brother, 2 big sisters, one's 10 years older. We all needed different things. Nick in the middle, 7 years older than me, 3 years younger than Sam. So we all needed different things. And she was providing for us all the best she could. But I didn't get much time with her.
No. And also, like we were talking about before, if someone's made you feel a certain way and you're consumed by it,
right.
Which your mum will have been with your dad, she can't have been putting everything into you kids mentally.
No.
Like, yes, she was providing, she was doing everything she could to keep food on the table and whatnot. But I can imagine she would have just been like a shell of a shell. Have you seen your mum's still alive, isn't she?
Yeah,
Have you seen like a real shift in how she is as a parent since your dad? Maybe since your dad died, because I suppose that's like
what's really interesting is that my dad died only a few months after my stepdad. But he didn't come into my life until I was like 15, 16. So he never tried to be a father figure for me.
Yeah,
he was the most wonderful man, Brian. I mean, he just delightful and so good for my mum. Unfortunately, he died of cancer. And I think it was a few months between them. So I remember Brian's passing was awful because we just had to watch him sort of waste away.
Yeah.
And then my dad was not in my life because I was as an adult, I was like, I don't need to see you. You've missed all the good shit. You don't get to just sort of turn up now. And also the damage you've done, you don't deserve to be. I really don't believe a lot of people say blood is thicker than water. I just think you're born into the family you're born into. I'm really fortunate that I would choose my siblings and choose my mum every day of the week. But my dad's nothing more than the sperm that made me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't owe him anything.
No, you don't have to stick with a parent if they're an asshole.
Absolutely. Like I wouldn't accept that behavior from anybody else in my life. So why, just because they are related to me, should I then go, oh, okay, yeah, I'll come back.
Even more so, because they're related to you, they should be even better with you, right?
Totally. So when I found out he died, I was like, oh, for me, it was like finding out a neighbour who I kind of half know passed away. And it's a shame I knew him.
Yeah.
But it didn't have any effect. However, when Brian died, it was heart-wrenching.
Yeah. Did you go to your dad's funeral?
Nope.
No. Okay, good.
No.
I am quite glad.